listening to our podcast, the Slowpoke Travel podcast. We hope you enjoy our podcast. The podcast starts right now. Slowpoke Travel podcast with Buck and Camera Girl. Ta-da! Alrighty, test. Got my ear ringing, clapped. That seemed loud to you, it seemed loud to me. But I got tinnitus. You know what tinnitus is? Tinnitus is a constant ringing or buzzing in your ear. Man, I can't believe I got that. I've had it for like a year now. When did I have it? Or is it 2 years now? I don't know. Seems like a long time. Doesn't look like it's going to go away. And if you go to the doctor about tinnitus, they can't do anything. If you look online, they can't do anything. There's nothing to do, right? You just got to live with this ringing in your ear. I guess I listened to too much loud music when I was a kid, or when I, was kid-like. But I also had an ear infection. Anyway, I got lots of kinds of stuff that's falling apart on me, and I don't have health insurance. I mean, how can I have health insurance? I could have health insurance, but then I'd have to pay for it. How do you pay for health insurance? I mean, I guess you have to work a job that provides health insurance. But is that a good reason to work a job? Whenever I've had health insurance, it's been because I was working for a big company. And so there was some way to have it. And it wouldn't entirely break the bank. Even though you always got to pay for it. I don't know. That's the conundrum with the lifestyle that Camera Girl and I have. Because making our, basically working for ourselves and being small business owners, although here's my business, the internet. It's quite a conundrum. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I've had, I think when we lived in Seattle, I had, what did I have? The Obamacare stuff, what is that, Affordable Care Act? But that doesn't really travel with you. And Camera Girl had her insurance through her job that she was working there. My job didn't have insurance. It's just so complicated. And it doesn't, I'm not imparting any information that's going to be useful about it because it doesn't exist, I don't think. Nobody can figure it out. Either you got good insurance because you lucked into it somehow, or you got a job that provides it, or you just got money falling out of your butt that you can just pay for some kind of plan that might work or might not work, that you got to wrestle with somebody for benefits. I don't know. It seems like everybody I know that has health insurance and a health issue, it's still a big pain in the butt. They still have money problems with the medical bills. They still have to figure money stuff out. The insurance allows them to get the health care, but there's still financial issues. Even though they're already paying out the wazoo for the insurance, they still have... Somebody was just relating a story to me of a friend of theirs that is currently having some health issues and getting some treatments every month, and they have to pay like $3,000 a month. And they have insurance. But they still can't afford health care. And they are even an older person that has the so-called benefits that older people have. So what's the answer? I don't have an answer. Why am I, this wasn't what I thought I was going to be talking about, but obviously it's on my mind because we're getting ready to travel. It seems like when we travel, at least when we travel, we've got sort of health insurance. I don't know. Camera Girl takes care of that. But when we travel, we have, what's that called? Travel insurance? Something like that. Because depending on where you go, they might check to make sure that you have some sort of travel insurance. So we have it. And because we can afford it. I mean, it is affordable somehow. as long as you are going somewhere outside the country. I think when we have the travel insurance, it doesn't work in the United States. It works for wherever we're going. But, at the price we pay, it wouldn't do anything for us in the United States. But, like when we were in Mexico, I went to the hospital one time. I had an infection on my leg. I actually banged my leg before we went to Mexico. I banged my leg on the car door and put a divot in my shin, just like a little hole in the bottom of my leg. And I don't know, I kind of half-heartedly washed it out and didn't really think about it. And then we ended up going to Puerto Vallarta, and we were in Puerto Vallarta for a couple of weeks, and it just wasn't healing, and it was kind of infected a little bit. And then I started worrying about it. We were in this tropical climate, my leg's not healing, blah, blah, blah. And then we ended up going to Guadalajara, and my leg wasn't bothering me, but it wasn't healing, and it was obviously infected. And then so one day I just went to, I just had been worrying about it so much that I decided to go to a hospital. There was one that we had walked by. I forget which one it was. It was somewhere in the Americana area in Guadalajara. And I walked into the emergency room, and my Spanish is pretty poor, and I had a hard time communicating with the people. But I did finally end up seeing a doctor, and he kind of cleaned the wound out. And, I was asking him, should I, is this worth coming to the hospital for? And he let me say, oh, yeah, you should need this taken care of, blah, blah, blah. So he cleaned it out, and he bandaged it up, and then he gave me a prescription for antibiotics, which turned out to be some kind of horse tranquilizer or something, I don't even know. But I ended up not even filling the prescription or taking it. Because, I don't know, maybe it would have gotten fine on its own, but anyway, it was taken care of. It took care of itself. I just kept it clean, and maybe I took better care of it, but it healed, and I was fine. But for that trip, for me walking into the emergency room and seeing a doctor and having him clean it out, and write me a prescription, was $18. And that was in the middle of Guadalajara. So, I don't know, I feel like I can maybe afford healthcare, general healthcare, in places outside the United States. Why is it so expensive here? It just doesn't work. I guess because it's a business. And the thing is, even if you go to get something done, the thing is, I'll say a friend, because I have to say a friend, because people don't want you talking about their medical stuff, so I'm not going to say people, but somebody I know was in the hospital, and we were going to see him, and, you would have different doctors, they went in through the emergency system, and they got admitted, and they were trying to find out, what the health issue was, and golly, you got different sets of doctors coming in and saying completely different things. It's this. This is what it is. And then somebody else will come in and say, no, this is what it is. And they got nothing to do with each other. In fact, they're actively saying, well, it's probably not what they're talking about because of these reasons or this reasons or whatever. And so you just have to decide who to go with. And then you go with that person. And unfortunately, in this case, everything worked out. And over time, they got better and they went home. And they're fine. But was it because of the doctors? Or was it because just time? Was it because of the treatment they received? Or was it in spite of the treatment they received? I don't know. If they'd have gone with either set of doctor over either set of whatever the heck, would their problem have resolved on its own? I don't know. As you could see, I'm a little bit skeptical of the whole medical thingamabobby-jig, just because it's a business, and so you're being sold something. And a lot of times, the people, when you go to talk to a doctor, they don't know. I don't know. Just in my experience, it doesn't seem like they're on the ball. because they're juggling so many balls, because they're almost working in a factory system where they just got, you got to keep the conveyor belt moving, and you got to get as much product down the line as possible. And hopefully that product has some insurance so that you can be billing all kinds of things. I don't know. All that to say that we don't have health insurance, and so I got to get out of the country before I have a health issue so that I can be in Mexico and, get an affordable horse tranquilizer. But I look at all these, we look at a lot of travel videos on YouTube. And, people, we look at different health options depending on where you're going. Like if we went to Ecuador, or if we went to Southeast Asia, of course, if we went to Mexico. And I don't know, it just seems like there are different options that are more affordable than the United States. Now, of course, there's a lot of great things in the United States. English being one of them. Since that's the language that we can figure out. I tell you what, it was funny in Mexico trying to talk to the doctors, but it definitely made it more interesting. I totally went off the rails on what I was talking about here. How long have I been talking? 12 minutes, 13 minutes? It feels like an hour. I'm sure it feels like 2 hours to you. But I was going to talk about the aging process. That's right, because I had thought of a funny line about how gravity has been pulling at my balls for 60 years. Because that's another health concern. Like I used to be able to roll over in bed. I'd be asleep and I'd roll over in bed and I wouldn't even think anything about it. But now, with my my old man testicular issue, I have to be careful rolling over in bed. I don't know, maybe some of you older fellows will know what I'm talking about. Most people won't, but as you get older, you really have to watch out for your balls. What else do you have to watch out for? Lots of stuff. I mean, it's like, what is that called? Your digestive system? You got to grease the rails in your digestive system. I heard an advertisement the other day where they were talking about the struggle with hair loss. That makes me so angry. Struggle with hair loss. You don't struggle with hair loss. Your hair just goes. There's no struggle. There's no struggle. It's not a problem. Hair loss is not a problem. When you've got longer hair, that's a problem. Hair is the problem, not the loss of hair. My hair was kind of long a couple of days ago. I finally cut it off. I don't even, that's another, talking about budgetary things. I'll talk about this here. As I've had one haircut in the last, no, that is true. I have gone to the barbershop and paid for a haircut once in the last, gosh, it's more than 20 years. How long is it? Well, no, it's not more than 20 years, 2004. It'll be coming up on 20 years in 2024. In 2024, I will have only paid for one haircut during that 20 years from 2004. Why am I making this more complicated? It's been over a decade. Well, no, that's not true because I got a haircut in Mexico and it was, I think, $8. That was with a pretty generous tip. Because, gosh, you tend to over tip in Mexico because things are affordable there. So it kind of mucks it up. I try not to, but for the haircut, I felt like it was worth it. But that's the only haircut I've paid for in many moons. Because usually I'll just take my clippers and do that. And I'm at a certain age. When you're a young person, you can worry about your hair getting messed up. When you're older, you don't have to worry about mucking up your hair. So what if I put a divot in my head? So what if I don't look my best? I'm decades away from looking my best. So it's fine if my hair doesn't come out great. But with this kind of haircut, how can I go wrong? I can't go wrong. But my point is, it's fantastic not having any hair. I hadn't shaved my head down with my clippers in a few months. So my hair was getting long. And when you have a long, people say, well, the reason you're letting your hair grow is you're trying to hide your bald spot. You don't hide your bald spot. There's no such thing as hiding your bald spot. The longer your hair gets, the more obvious your bald spot is. I like having long hair. I don't care if it makes my bald spot look a little more accentuated. I'm at an age where it's, I get more of a kick out of looking like a character than looking like a JCPenney underwear model. But it's easier without the hair. So there's no struggle with hair loss. You have to struggle. The more hair you have, the more you struggle. Hair loss is a liberation. So if you've got a full head of thick, luxuriant hair, then I pity you. I feel sorry for you. You should get you some clippers and start working on that today. What else? So the aging process. You got to struggle with hair loss. Not really. You got to worry about stepping on your testicles. You got to worry about constipation. I'll say it. Constipation. What else? You would think, as much coffee as I drink, that wouldn't be an issue. And it's not really an issue. But I did bring it up. So I guess that's about it. And my knees are shot, but my knees have always been shot. But you have to think about your body falling apart as you get older, because that's what happens. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's going to happen because that's what happens. You're not going to peak and then it's going to be over. Unless you're hit by a bus or something. You're not going to be at your, if it's over in your prime, then you haven't been able to take it full advantage. So ideally, you are going to suffer a decline. But, hopefully it's not going to be that great a decline, or you're going to mitigate the decline through better diet, through some kind of exercise. Camera Girl and I are working at it in a fun and positive and fruitful manner. We are making positive headroads into our decline, and we're not making a chore out of it. But we do have to address the fact that we're getting older, because if we didn't, then we'd end up like a lot of people in the South, which is big and giant with health and mobility issues, and then that would put a severe cramp in our wannabe traveling lifestyle. So as you get older, you have to think about that. You have to be more proactive in your health and your health care, especially if you're going to have bouts without insurance, which I can see no way around unless I want to actively sacrifice large swaths of my time and energy and give those over to the medical insurance conglomeration. Thus trade the life that I have for the health care that I might need to wrestle out of them, which might not even be the health care I need. I don't know. I mean, if I broke my leg, I would go to the doctor. Because no matter what happens, if you have a health issue, that's the number one priority in your life. You have to address it, because otherwise, you probably can't ignore it. Even a toothache, you can't ignore it. I mean, you can ignore it for a little while, but sooner or later, if you have a health issue, you have to address it. So there's no escaping it. So it's only going to get more complicated as I get older. And I'll definitely have to figure something out. And I'm not soliciting any suggestions or advice because you don't have any. Because I don't think there are any. I've done the research. There are no answers in the United States. That's why it's such a problem. Well, that's what I think. Prove me wrong. But anyway, that's what's on my mind, is getting older here on the verge of traveling, because I'm excited because maybe I will have my tinnitus looked at. by some Spanish-speaking person. And maybe they'll tell me something different than the English-speaking person told me here. And it'll be cheaper maybe to hear even the same thing. Maybe it won't cost me as much. But anywho, that's me jammering away. I'm going to be trying to podcast more because I want to become a better speaker. I've been doing my longer format cooking videos, real-time cooking videos, because that makes it more interesting and challenging. But it's easier, if I'm cooking and making a recipe, it's easier because I'm already following a plan in my head. I know with these travel podcasts, or whatever the heck kind of podcast this is, my conversation kind of goes off in tangential lines without any seeming relationship to whatever the heck I was started out talking about, or what I might have even been talking about a few moments before. So I don't have much of a plan that I can latch onto and stick to. But maybe if I talk more, I will get better at it. So my goal is to be more consistent and even more creative in this coming year, because I become less and less creative. It seems like as the years have gone by, and I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's because I haven't been focused on certain things, or maybe I have been too focused on certain things and not open to more general things. It's just very interesting how the brain works. But that's a different podcast. But links down below. Thanks for listening to me ramble and practice becoming a conversant human being. Thanks for people that support us on Patreon. I'm going to be putting up some stuff on Patreon, because I've been going through a lot of my old video stuff, old video footage, and especially some of my older creative stuff, and trying to look and see what the hell I was thinking. But I hope everybody is having a fantastic start to the new year. And we appreciate you watching our Slowpoke Travel stuff and our cooking stuff over on the Chef Book Cooking channel. So that's it for now, and I'll talk to you in the future. Bye-bye. Alrighty, that is it. Click, subscribe, review, share all over the global internet sphere. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time on the Slowpoke Travel podcast.